Hey all, welcome to Political Science 101, Introduction to American and Nevada Politics. That might not be exactly the title of the course that's in the course catalog, but it's the essence of the course. Right? We're looking at American and Nevada politics. My name is Dr. Francis Joseph Carlton III. I'm the instructor for the course. What I want to do here is I'm going to talk about the syllabus, and then I'll cut a separate video that talks about the course more generally and how to navigate it on why am I blanking? On Canvas. Okay. So yeah, when you get a chance, check out the syllabus. It's right there on the home page for the course, which is also the modules page. By the way, just a quick look ahead to the next video. Pretty much everything is centralized on the home/modules page of the course on Canvas. The home page is the modules page and vice versa. That's pretty much where the course happens for you guys. The syllabus. I give you some office hours there. Those are probably more for my on-ground students, but if you want to come by, I'm here at the Charleston campus, C building, room 269, F for Francis. All right. And if you want to meet at a different time, we can probably negotiate that. And if you want to do an online meeting through Big Blue Button is what I would probably use. We can also do that, not a problem at all. I also provide there my telephone number. That would be more for emergencies and typically for texting. I also give you critically here my CSN email address. All right, so a fair amount of the syllabus, right, is that boilerplate language. That's not all that compelling. For the most part, I'll be blunt. First thing here that strikes me as relevant in a very direct way is the assigned text. And I think because I'm doing this on a camera, I think it might come out in reverse on the screen. I'm not sure. Yeah, this is the right edition. My dog chewed it up. We have 5 rescue dogs. 3 of them are large pit bull mixes, and wow. Yeah, pretty bad. I used to see some of the shoes and other books they've eaten. My wallet, just a whole host of inanimate objects that they've consumed, at least partially. American Government in Black and White, 5th edition, 2021. I think they're just coming out with the next edition, but I wasn't sure it would be available, and I thought it would also be very pricey. So this is the older edition. You can try to get one that's not chewed up by a rescue dog. But that's the one to shoot for here. And because it's an older edition, it should be available on, like, I don't want to plug any mega corporations that don't need it, but probably, a place called Amazon.com you may have heard of. Heck, even eBay, you might be able to find this pretty cheaply. If you're going old school with the physical copy. That's one thing. If you get an electronic copy, the dogs won't be able to chew those up. And I know that's increasingly popular with students. Okay. You're also going to be assigned some chapters from Michael Bauer's The Sagebrush State, 2021, 6th edition. But don't worry about that, because I've downloaded the relevant chapters as PDF files, and when we're covering one of those chapters, it'll be embedded within the module on that topic. So I think the first one that we look at is we look at the founding of the great state of Nevada pretty early on in this semester. And for that, I've downloaded the first 2 chapters of that book on the history of the founding of the great state of Nevada. That'll be right there as a PDF file, so you don't need to worry about that. Okay. What else is relevant here? There will be 4 examinations. I'll also try to get my hair under control for the next video. Good Lord. Man, look, I'm 60 years old, so am I going to complain about having too much hair that's too thick? I am not going to complain about that. But I could do a better job with it. 4 exams. Okay, 4 exams. Now, I used to hold off on this until the end of the semester, but now I just put it out there right up front. I'll be dropping your lowest exam score, multiple choice. So you'll take, well, some of you will take 4. Most of you will take all 4, and I'll drop your lowest. Some of you may do really well in the first 3 exams, and you're happy with those 3 scores. You don't need to take the 4th exam. All right? So there's 2 ways to think about that. Either do reasonably well in the first 3 and skip the 4th, or take all 4 and I'll drop your lowest. All right, so at some level I start to, when I go through this, I think, well, I'm really giving them a fair amount to do, but in each of the categories of assignments except 1, I'm dropping your lowest score. I might even, you know what, I'll probably just drop it for all the categories. The older I get, the more I get soft in the head. All right, so 4 exams, but I'm dropping your lowest. And if it's a 0, right, you didn't take it, I'll drop that one. The 4 exams will count for 60% of your grade in this class. 60%. Yep. I have to always remind myself each semester because I forget. 60%. So the bulk of your grade comes from those exams. All right, the 3 highest. You'll also get 5 current events quizzes throughout the semester. Based on each of the current events quizzes will be based on 3 current events articles that I'll post in a module. Now the first one will be called Current Events Quiz Number 1. That'll be the name of the module, Current Events Quiz Number 1. And within that module will be 3 current events articles and the quiz itself. All right. You'll take 5 of those, and I'll drop your lowest one. And in aggregate, those are worth 15% of your grade for the course. 15. So significant, but not nearly as large a weighting as the exams. All right. And again, as with the exams, right? If you take the first 4 and do well, you don't need to take the 5th. You know, best practice would be take all 5, and then I'll drop your lowest one. But if you don't take one, right, that's a 0, and I'll drop that. Discussion threads. Probably post between 8 and 10 discussion threads throughout the semester on the relevant topic that we're covering at that time. There I'm looking for an original post and then a post that responds to another student's post. And, you know, I'll be blunt. I grade these pretty leniently, arguably very leniently. I'm really just looking for a good faith effort to address the topic in a meaningful way. And I'm trying to model, in a way, the behavior of an ideal citizen in a constitutional democracy such as ours. Right? That you talk with one another about a relevant political topic that has a meaningful impact on millions of Americans, whether that's immigration policy or healthcare policy or the politics of Congress or the politics of our federal courts or civil rights agenda that we should be pursuing, the critical issue of civil liberties, Bill of Rights stuff, right? Post your own views on that. I'll pose a prompt, and then look for other students and how they've responded, and choose at least one of those responses and then give them feedback and say, wow, I see you argued this about the right to keep and bear arms. I'm fully in agreement with you because I think, whatever, that this is a fundamental right and it's the cornerstone of our freedom here. And boy, you really nailed it. And I think the federal courts have gotten it about right in cases like McDonald v. Chicago and BC v. Heller. Or you may say, I saw your views on the Second Amendment. Boy, you're pretty far off in my own view. I think you're misunderstanding that language. I think the federal courts have mostly gotten that wrong, and this is where I come out on that issue. I think we should interpret it quite differently in this way, something like that, right? And then of those 8 to 10 that you'll do, ideally, I'll drop your 3 lowest. Your 3 lowest. scores. For most students, that means they skip 3. But others like to do all of them, and then I drop your lowest one. And that's worth 10% of your grade in this course, 10%. So 60, 75, 85, we're up to 85%. The end is near, in a good way. Short writing assignments. That's the final category of what I'm expecting from you. These are 2 to 3 page assignments. There'll be 3 of them, and I'll drop your lowest one. All right. And these will be prompts that I'll be drawing from our textbook. They have little vignettes, little stories at the beginning of each chapter. I try to choose 3 of those over the course of the semester and say, look, this is what our authors are arguing on this issue. What do you think about that? And engage with their arguments. Quote them directly, and provide your own reading of that issue. Do you think our authors get it right? Do you think our authors get it wrong? What are the critical issues here? What should we be doing going forward on an issue like immigration or criminal justice policy, or how we structured our federal courts? That sort of thing. Three short writing assignments, 2 to 3 pages, and I'll drop your lowest one. That's the final 15% of your grade in this course. That comes to 100%. All right. Of the boilerplate that follows from there on the syllabus, the only thing I would highlight, just because it's kind of like the hot issue right now, it's my policy on artificial intelligence, AI, ChatGPT, that kind of thing. Boy, faculty, we are losing our minds over this. Generally speaking, it's proven to be a source of great frustration for many of us. Yeah, I'm not really a huge fan of it in terms of as a way to complete academic assignments for students. It's not appropriate. So I do sketch it out there. Check it out. This policy, it indicates the following, and it includes more than just AI, but it is inclusive of AI. The following constitute violations of academic honesty. A student has another person or entity do the work of any substantive portion of a graded assignment, which includes purchasing work from a company, hiring a person or company to complete an assignment or exam, and most critically, using generative AI tools such as ChatGPT to complete an assignment. Deeply frowned upon, right? A form of academic dishonesty, and will be dealt with accordingly. For at least some of these, I'll be having you submit your work through Turnitin, which does have an AI detection tool. It does have a 1% false positive rate, which is very concerning, of course. So I try to apply it reasonably and as leniently as I can. But it does give me an AI score for student submissions. And, like for the discussion threads, because I know students are even using it for that, which seems crazy because so little is required of you for a discussion thread. So little is asked. Why would you lean on ChatGPT or whatever to do that for you? I have no idea, but people do. What do I want to say on that? I think I can cut and paste those into a detection tool, because you obviously wouldn't use Turnitin for discussion threads. And look, sort of informally, I think faculty understand that there are certain markers that generate suspicion that a student has used AI. Typically, it's when an essay is very generic, it's very polished, very well written, but very generic, and it doesn't sound like a flesh and blood student wrote it. It's kind of dry, but again, very well written, very well written. That in and of itself, I'll be blunt, that in and of itself is a tip-off. Because these are AI is scouring the internet for relevant work done by typically academics and journalists on politics. So when it synthesizes this stuff, it's going to be super well written. And they're just, in many cases, I can't write that well. Let alone a student taking this course, typically for Gen Ed credit. So right away, if it's super polished and like grammatically perfect in every way and very slick and sophisticated, that in and of itself, I'll be honest, it raises red flags right away. You're like, really? It's possible. Of course it's possible. It's just generally unlikely. So if I do see that, I'll pay that extra attention and then sort of vet it through the detection tool. I'd rather see the rougher cuts from actual flesh and blood students. Yeah. Because it's an imperfect effort, but in doing so, right, you're developing your writing abilities, your analytical abilities. You're getting a higher education. Whereas if you just put in the prompt to ChatGPT and get a response, you've learned either very little from that or possibly nothing at all. I like student written work that has some personality, and that's one thing, man. Whatever else AI can do, at least right now, what they produce doesn't tend to have much personality. You don't get the sense that there's a person behind that work, except indirectly through the work that they mine from academics and journalists. Yep. Okay, so keep that in mind. And then finally, and I'm going on far too long here, I do apologize. But finally, the outline of what we're covering, and it should match about what you would expect, because what we're doing here is that we start out talking about the basics of American politics, which is talking about what is a constitutional democracy, what is not a constitutional democracy. We'll see that the typical alternative to constitutional democracy is authoritarianism, which is on the rise around the globe, including here in the U.S. And there's a little bit of a battle here for the soul of America and the soul of the world over how will we, the people, both here in America and globally, how will they govern themselves? Through authoritarian leaders or through constitutional democracy? My strong preference is for constitutional democracy. And I'll make that case. I'm not going to act like it's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. We'll talk about American political culture, what that looks like and how that shapes our politics. We'll talk about our changing demographics and how that shapes our politics. All that good stuff. We'll talk about the founding of the American Republic via the American Revolution. We'll talk about the creation of the U.S. Constitution, which increasingly it seems is under threat here in America. And again, these things are happening in countries around the globe. It is estimated right now that about half of the world lives under authoritarian dictatorships and about half live under constitutional democracy regimes. So we're split, it appears, almost exactly 50-50. But again, authoritarianism seems to be on the march. We'll talk about the founding of the great state of Nevada. We'll talk about the nature of American federalism, right, where you divide power between the national government, state governments, local governments. And you also have some of those twists, right, where you have territories like Guam and Puerto Rico, the Northern Marianas Islands, and we also have Native American tribes, right, that occupy sort of a unique position in our federal system. They are ultimately beholden to the federal government, but state and local governments have limited control over federally recognized native tribes. So again, they occupy kind of an interesting space within our federal system. We'll talk about state and local politics here in Nevada, including how we are taxed at the state level, how we are taxed at the local level, how that money is spent at the state level, and how that money is spent at the local level. We'll talk about civil liberties, Bill of Rights stuff. It's always fun. Juicy topics there. We'll talk about civil rights throughout American history. We'll talk about the politics of the U.S. Congress, the politics of the Nevada legislature. We'll talk about the politics of the American presidency. We'll talk about the politics of the federal bureaucracy, which is a little different than the politics of the presidency. We'll talk about the politics of the Nevada executive branch. We'll talk about the U.S. Supreme Court and the lower federal courts. We'll talk about the Nevada judicial system. We will talk about the politics of public opinion in our democracy, the politics of the media, always a hot topic. We'll talk about the politics of interest groups, the politics of our political parties, those entities that we love to hate, but we need them, it turns out. We're frenemies. And the politics of voting in elections. Ka-boom. All right, so thanks.